Hello and welcome to Falcon Blues TV. I'm Callum Davis and I am back after quite a lengthy spell away with another match preview for this week's game where Everton are going to be travelling to Brentford. It's on Sunday the 28th of November and we are a 2 p.m. kickoff live on Sky Sports. Before we get into the video, if you wouldn't mind going down, liking and subscribing, we'd really appreciate it. Without further ado, let's get into it. So the game on the weekend marks the start of a pretty long run for Everton, 7 games in just 4 weeks' time. Obviously the rest of the league will go through a similar run of games, but ours is particularly important, I feel, because we have the derby coming up midweek. Bit of a horrible one scheduling wise in terms of how we can prepare for that game, and the fact that we've just had City, which was obviously a pretty poor performance again. It doesn't really bode well for a really out of form Everton side. Now, just to touch on that City game, it was, like I said, pretty poor performance. We all kind of know what we're going to get when we play City. Everton will roll over, we'll flatter to deceive for a little while, and then eventually we'll concede 1, and then we'll concede 2, and then we'll inevitably concede 3. I thought it would be 3-0 at least, so I can't even say I'm surprised, and that's just a little bit depressing, to be honest. It's the depressing state of the club at the moment. Haven't won in quite some time. I think the last time we won away from home was in Brighton, which was the end of August, which just shows just how long it's been since we managed to get a win. Luckily for us, Brentford aren't even exactly in the greatest of form either. Neither side has won in the last 5. Which I suppose evens it out, but the fact of the matter is Brentford, newly promoted, the excitement's kind of worn off, but they're still going to have the energy of a newly promoted side, whereas we have the energy of a side that is quite happy to finish mid-table, maybe just above the relegation fight. But the way our current form is going, relegation doesn't seem like a far cry. I suppose the counter argument for our Brighton and our away form, our Brighton is our last win and the away form, would be that Brentford haven't won at home since the opening day of the season when they beat Arsenal, and that was a very poor Arsenal side that went on quite a poor run. There seems to be a balance for every argument. As bad as we are, they're also not as bad, but I think it will come down to the energy and who wants it more, because on paper their side isn't really great, but the side that we're going to have to field because of injuries, I think it won't be far away from a championship outfit. Now, both sides do like to ship goals. Everton and Brentford have, I think they've conceded 10 goals each in the last 4 games. The only positive for Brentford is that they actually score a lot. They scored 3 away from home in the last game against Newcastle. Obviously, that's an Eddie Howe side that's going to concede a lot of goals, but they will score a lot. Whereas we don't look like creating a great deal of chances, and we're just leaking goals for fun. We're missing so many key players through injury, and I really don't see where we're picking up points in the next few games. It's really quite scary as an Everton fan. The last time Everton and Brentford played each other in the last 50 years was in 2010, and that was at Brentford Stadium. Obviously their old stadium now, because they recently moved into the new one, and they did win that game. It was in a cup, in the League Cup, I think. That's the only game to go by, really, and it's completely different. Completely different teams, completely different, where the clubs have gone. Well, we've not really moved anywhere. As I mentioned, the injury news, it makes for a depressing reading as an Everton fan, as everyone will already know. Demarai Gray pulled up at City, and I've heard reports saying that he could be out for 2 months. Hopefully it's not that bad, but I'm pretty sure he'll be out for this game, not to risk him a groin injury. Calvert-Lewin will probably be out. He said that we will see for the derby, but it doesn't look like he's going to be back at all. Doucouré has been training a little bit, I think, and he seems more likely to be back before Calvert-Lewin, but he'll be completely unfit. He probably won't play against Brentford. If he does play in the derby, he's going to have absolutely no legs, and it's going to be a tough ask for anyone to come back from injury and instantly recapture the form of the early points of the season. We've got 2 suspensions as well. Richarlison and Holgate are both injured. Richarlison obviously picked up a yellow card against City, and Holgate still serving that 3-match ban from that daft slide tackle against Spurs. And then you've got the the usuals. Davis out with that knee injury. Gomez, who's been out for God knows how long, and Mina, who seems to just not be getting fit despite having been injured for it feels like months now. I'm not exactly sure what's wrong with him, but it's strange because he is just eternally unfit, eternally injured. I think we miss him quite a lot, especially with Godfrey not really picking up form because of obviously the COVID that he's suffered from, long COVID. I think in the past few weeks Godfrey's not been as bad and he seems to be maybe getting back to his old self, but we do miss Mina so much. He's such a commanding presence at centre-back. And yeah, for Brentford, they've obviously got a few injuries as well, as everyone will around the Christmas period. The first choice goalkeeper, David Raya, he's out till February, I think, which is quite a shame for them, so they'll have to have a stand-in. Da Silva and Aya are two that could potentially be back for them, but or whether they'll risk them is another thing. And then there's 3 doubtful players, which is Wissa, Zanka and Jensen, all of which are pretty much very unlikely to play a part in this game. And that, for the teams, it makes for quite a depressing reading as an Everton fan. Not to keep saying the same things, but the club is a pretty depressing place to be at the moment. Now, as I mentioned, it's going to be a pretty championship side. In goal, Pickford. You'll have a back 4. You'll have Coleman at the right, Dean at the left, and you'll probably have Godfrey and Keane in centre-back. It's the normal back 5. Can't complain all that much. It should be good enough, but in recent weeks it obviously hasn't been. And then you'll probably have Alan and Delph just in front of them. Pretty solid. Delph is nailed on for an early card and a 60th minute substitution, but he's had a few glimpses in the past month that he could be of use to us before his contract runs up at the end of the season, so I guess we'll have to see. But it's the other end of the pitch which really doesn't look good. With Gray's injury, with Richarlison's suspension and the rest of them, Benitez did come out and say that Rondon will be fit for Brentford. Thank God for that. So that means that he'll probably start up front, which means we won't have any of the youngsters who seem to be on fire, Sims or Dobbin, who scored just the other week for the under-23s. They won't be getting a look in, it seems like. And you'd imagine that the 3 behind him will probably be Iwobi, Townsend on the right and Gordon on the left. I think Iwobi and Rondon are very, very bad footballers, and I would not be disappointed if they didn't wear an Everton shirt again. It might sound a bit harsh, but every time I watch Iwobi, I don't really see what he offers to the team. And that front 4 as well, there's not a great deal of running in them. Gordon, as decent as he's been since he's come in, against City, I thought he was quite lazy. Townsend is the only one in that front 4 where I can guarantee that they will work really hard for the team, and that simply isn't good enough when you've got an aging fullback like Coleman and Dean, who seemed a little bit out of sorts this season. Now for Brentford, a bit of a strange team, Brentford, because none of them are really household names, but obviously they work to a system and they do all right at times, and they've pulled up some good results this season. So in goal, you'd have to have Fernandez, which is their backup goalkeeper, and then they play a back 3, so it'd be Pinnock, Janssen, and then they've got a few centre-backs to choose from, maybe Rosler or Charlie Good. They might do a little shake-up after conceding 3, but you never really know. Fullbacks, Canos and Henry, slightly more well-known. Both of them have scored a couple of goals this season each. So they're going to cause a threat. And then you'll have a midfield 3 of Norgard, Godos, and then you could have Onyeka or you could have Janelt. Depends whether he wants to be a bit more conservative or whether he wants to go for it. I couldn't tell you, but the front 2 are probably a bit more well-known, of obviously Ivan Toney and Mbembo. They've performed really well since they've come up. Obviously Toney, with all the goals that he scored in the Championship, flattered to deceive a little bit at the start of the season, but he seems to be, getting a few goals scored against his old club Newcastle on the weekend. And they both just work really hard. They are just a hard-working side, and I think that's going to be our undoing at the end of the day. And it is quite an important game because obviously neither side has picked up points. They're 14th in the league, we're 11th in the league, and there's only a few points that separate the two of us. I can't see anything other than us not winning again. I think we'll be lucky to get a draw. And obviously Everton will have one eye on the midweek derby, which I would say we could rest players, but if we rested players, honestly, we'd be fielding an under-23 side. We are in a really tough position at the moment, and we really can't afford to get any more injuries in this Brentford game, because it could literally be a cricket score in midweek when we have to play Liverpool. Like I said, they're a hard-working side, and we were very flat against City. We've not really shown a great deal since Spurs, where I thought we showed a bit of passion, but again didn't create a great deal. At the end of the day, I don't think we're going to win. It'd be hard to predict an Everton win. Even the most confident Evertonian couldn't really predict an Everton win. I'd probably say like a 1-1 draw, and if we're going to lose, I think it'll probably be like 2-0 to Brentford. I'll go with the 2-0 Brentford, and I hope that Everton can prove me wrong. You can let us know in the comments down below what you think the score's going to be. Thank you very much for watching. Sorry about the little gap in between videos, but we'll be back now with some regular content. Thank you very much for watching, and up the toffees.